we're done with that bit. I'm not doing that anymore. Anyway, back in my review of the original NES game, I mentioned that I didn't get into the Metroid series into my later teen years. In fact, it was about 10 years ago now when I logged onto the Nintendo channel on my Wii and saw this video.
My name is Samus Aran. I'm a bounty hunter. I work alone.
I had known about Metroid sort of offhand up to this point. Playing Samus as Smash Bros. 64 was more or less my first look at the series, but it wasn't until I saw this video that I was given a better context into that universe, and this was what really got me interested in the Metroid franchise. Yeah, an advertisement for Other M is what got me into Metroid. Of course, it made some level of sense. The production value for this game's advertising campaign was off the charts. Like, it was hard not to get excited for this, even if you weren't a Metroid fan. After seeing this, I wanted to catch myself up, so that's when I started playing the games that came out before, experiencing Samus's adventures for the first time. It's worth remembering that there were a few games that came out after Fusion, but before this title. The Metroid Prime series was very well received among Metroid fans, but definitely played very differently than the original games, going for a 3D first-person adventure approach. But Other M was something different. It was the first game in the series to take on a 3D structure from a third-person perspective, but was also adding in elements from the Prime series as well, and what's more, the Prime series felt like it had its own storyline going on, while this was jumping back into the storyline built up by the other games with a lot of influence from Super Metroid and even delving deeper into Samus's origins. This was a big deal to Metroid fans back in the day. A new title taking elements from the 2D games and melding them with the 3D ones, creating a unique experience, but we also had Yoshio Sakamoto, one of the co-creators of the franchise, returning to direct this. Everything was set for success. The stars were aligned and all was well, so what the hell went wrong here? Spoilers ahead. Let's get into it. Metroid Other M takes place somewhere before Metroid Fusion, but picks up right at the end of Super Metroid, where Samus is getting the old beat down from Mother Brain before being saved by the baby Metroid. We know how this goes. Mother Brain kills the baby, Samus gets the Hyper Beam and kills Mother Brain. It all just looks really shiny now, and I guess that's something worth pointing out now because it's immediately apparent, but yeah, this game is gorgeous. It's one of, if not the best looking games on the system, and everything, cutscenes or gameplay, looks stunning here. It's phenomenal. Once we pick back up with Samus after her mission from Super Metroid is complete, however, we see that not all the presentation in this game is perfect.
A dream. I had been reliving the tragic moments of my recent past.
So Samus has a voice now, and she uses it. A lot. She will monologue through every single cutscene, and it's all through this super robotic and emotionless voice. It's been pointed out before that this really isn't the actress's fault. Jessica Aaron Martin is not a bad actress, and she's done good work before, but this is how she was instructed to deliver her lines. This is what she had to do, and it sounds really bad. And I mean, Samus speaking isn't a problem. She's had stuff to say in text boxes before, and it's always been fine, but she's had a voice in Smash Brothers too.
Is that all?
Yeah, see? That's kind of what she should sound like. Samus goes on about how sad she is that the baby Metroid sacrificed itself for her, but there's no time for that. Now we gotta move on to the tutorial with this patronizing jerkwad talking to Samus like she has no idea what she's doing. Like, really, man? I killed an entire species. I just got back from blowing up a planet. I can handle... what is this? Problem number 2. This game was developed for the Wii, but despite the insane amount of controller options this console supports, the only method of movement you have in Other M is this. Just the Wii remote. Yeah, a small handful of buttons and, oh, a D-pad. Come on. This is the first third-person 3D Metroid game, and you want me to run around in these open environments with 8 directions of input? Man, it sure is a shame that the Wii didn't come packaged with some kind of accessory that just plugs into the back of the Wii remote and gives players access to an analog stick that would make movement in a 3D environment much easier. Oh wait, I remember an interview where Sakamoto said he wanted to use just the Wii remote so that it would be more easily accessible and everyone could understand the control scheme. Well, Super Mario Galaxy doesn't seem to have an issue utilizing the nunchuck, so you tell me Super Mario Galaxy is too difficult for general audiences to understand? Not to mention, the Metroid Prime games also used a nunchuck for movement, and it also worked so well in Prime 3 that they added this control scheme to the GameCube games when they were ported to the Wii for the Metroid Prime Trilogy collection. I really wish that I could say that this was the height of Sakamoto's poor decision-making for this game, but it's not. So a word of note here, I definitely want to give credit to Team Ninja for their work developing this game. They had to jump through a ton of weird hoops to capture what Sakamoto was looking for, but they really did their best with it. This concept of using a D-pad in this kind of level structure is ridiculous, but they did make it feel as good as it possibly could. To help mitigate some issues that would normally arise from this sort of thing, firing your arm cannon has some pretty decent auto-aiming properties, so I didn't really have much trouble hitting the right enemy or anything like that, and honestly, one of my favorite new additions is melee combat. By dazing an enemy, you can run in, get up close, and take them out head on, and I love this feature. Samus is a super versatile and nimble character, so letting her use her fighting skills outside of just shooting things is something that probably should have happened a while ago, to be honest. Stuff jumps right back into being stupid though when trying to fire missiles. You can't go running around firing these things, instead you have to stop dead in your tracks, turn the Wii remote around so it's pointing towards the screen, and enter a first-person kind of view like the Prime games, and yes, this is the only way to fire missiles in Other M, and also yes, it feels really jarring almost every time you have to stop and do it. This can be such a pace breaker, especially during boss fights and that sort of thing, but it's not the only time they're gonna force you to switch perspectives. During key moments of the narrative, Samus will have to stop and scan the area for some really specific clue concerning the plot before being able to do anything else, and you have to be like pixel perfect. I mean, right on top of the subject in question for this to work, and sometimes it's really not obvious what you're even supposed to be looking for. And that's not even mentioning the times when the story forces you into this over-the-shoulder camera angle where Samus has to saunter through these locations looking for something. Is this supposed to build tension? Because all it really does is just build frustration with the control scheme, and I already wasn't a fan. Speaking of that story though, we should probably get back into it because it's honestly hard to talk about the other problems with the way this gameplay is structured without getting into the events that surround it. Once Samus is done with her tutorial and gives her mission report, some time passes before she picks up a distress signal coming from a nearby Galactic Federation outpost known as the Bottle Ship. She says something about how the type of distress signal is codenamed Baby's Cry because
the nickname comes from the fact that the purpose of the signal is to draw attention.
Alright, answer me this, Samus. Have you ever, like at any point in your life, heard of any kind of distress signal that isn't explicitly designed to attract as much attention as possible? It's kind of what they're supposed to do. Well, she makes it to the bottle ship, but she's not alone because the Galactic Federation has sent a team there too, with some familiar faces among the crew as well. One of them is Anthony Higgs, an old friend from Samus's war days with the Federation, and the only likable character in this game. He's got a couple of fun lines here and there, and he's pretty much the only person in the cast having any fun. He's also the only person in the game treated with any, like, subtlety. Like, we know that he and Samus were friends back in the day, but rather than beating us over the head with that idea and getting long, drawn-out stories about their adventures, it's actually easy to tell that these guys are buddies just by watching them interact sometimes without even the use of words. It's almost like a visual medium gives you the tools necessary for portraying ideas and plot elements without forced monologues, rather than just stuff we can see with our eyes. I also like that while he jokes around with Samus from time to time, you can tell that it comes from a place of respect, and just look at this man's face, he loves showing off how awesome his best friend is to the rest of the team. So other than Anthony, we have a couple of Randys whose names and jobs I care absolutely nothing about because they might as well just be faceless drones, and Adam Malkovich. So remember that computer from Fusion, the one that Samus named Adam after her caring and respectful former commander from when she was in the Galactic Federation? Remember how she commented on how the computer acted more cold and calculating when compared to the real guy it was based on? Well, I hope her praise for this brave and selfless man didn't build up your expectations too high for the real deal, cause here he is, and he sucks! I'm trying to figure out how to tackle this particular aspect of the game, cause it brings up two major issues. I guess a good place to start would be what it does to the narrative of this game, and considering you can't skip these cutscenes and have to watch each one through to the end, it doesn't help that they're so unbearable. We know from Fusion that Adam was once Samus' superior officer when she served under the Galactic Federation and that she looked up to him, but this game takes that a step further by explaining that he was something of a mentor and even a father figure to her. Did he console her when her troubling past came back to haunt her? Did he help her figure out what her place in the universe was and give her direction on how to gain control over her own motivations and feelings? Can't say for sure because the game really doesn't give us much insight on that. It just kind of tells us that we should care about this relationship. Samus just monologues about how he vaguely mentored her in the past and gave her the oh-so-eloquent nickname of Lady.
Any objections, lady?
Supposedly, while Samus would detest anyone else calling her this outright and take it as a sign of people looking down on her, she finds it dignified when spoken by Adam. Sure, yeah, that's totally the impression I get. At least when Anthony calls her princess, it still comes off as friends poking fun at each other, but everything that Adam says and does feels cold and distant. We never actually see what ties these characters together, we just hear about it, and it's one of the biggest issues with the story of this game, but it also greatly hinders the presentation. We learn that Adam had to make a tough call during a mission that managed to save his entire crew and the passengers of the ship they were sent to rescue, but resulted in the death of his younger brother. Samus was begging Adam to trust her to try to save him, and he wouldn't allow it, probably because he knew she would just end up getting killed. According to this game, this is what caused Samus to leave the Federation, and it damaged their relationship pretty significantly. I mean, Samus did have her family taken from her at a very early age, so I can understand her having strong feelings about someone she looked up to. From her perspective, just letting a family member go like that. Of course, Adam was in a position where he knew that trying to save his brother would mean getting them all killed and he would just die anyway, but I can also understand why this would tear the two apart and might be enough to make Samus leave. So with this rift now created between the two, Samus showing up with her own free will to this facility and running into Adam's team should make for an interesting interaction, and at first it does. Anthony seems happy to see Samus, but Adam gives her the cold shoulder, refusing to divulge information about their mission because she's quote-unquote an outsider. The Federation didn't ask her to be here, and she made a choice a while ago not only to leave the organization, but to leave him as well. We can see Samus takes this response a little harshly. Obviously, she doesn't like hearing him refer to her that way, but understands why he did. It's a good moment that visually showcases the strain that now exists between these two people that once were very close. Or at least it would have been, if it weren't for the narration.
The word he so obviously chose, outsider, pierced my heart.
Any cutscene in this game that could have carried some emotional weight and really resonated with the player is never given a chance because the game has no subtlety and doesn't trust the player to take the information given to them and put together a conclusion on their own. Anytime in this game that Samus encounters something that challenges her on any level, we have to sit through this high school fanfiction level writing that spells out exactly what she's feeling and why she doesn't like it, and rather than the intended effect of drawing us closer to the character and seeing her as more human, it makes her seem so much more alien and stilted, like she's trying to process what the sensation of human emotions even are, and this forced narration ruins every single cutscene in the game. And because we really need to create even more distance between Samus and the player, we have the other problem that Adam brings to the table. After traveling a short while with the group, Samus helps them defeat some kind of monster, and Adam decides that it would probably be a good idea to recruit Samus for the safety of his team because, you know, she's a seasoned bounty hunter with a lot of tools at her disposal and the experience needed to utilize them effectively. So when bringing her on board, he naturally tells her that she can't use any of her weapons and upgrades until he tells her she can because, you know, she's a seasoned bounty hunter with a lot of tools at her disposal and the experience needed to utilize them effectively, except for when she's around other people, I guess. What is this logic? Sir, have you even seen a fraction of the things that Samus has accomplished in Metroids 1, 2, and Super Metroid? And it's not even addressing everything that happened in the Prime games, but to be honest, I don't even know if this game acknowledges those, so I just kind of skipped them before tackling this mess. Samus knows what she's doing. Her entire biology was altered for the sole purpose of using this equipment, but sure, you know what's best, Adam. Can't have my space jump to make it over long stretches of terrain because that would just be too dangerous for some reason. Can I at least use my Varia suit so that the heat of this area you're telling me to run through doesn't literally kill me from exposure alone? No? Alright, yeah, that's fine. Let me just dodge bloodthirsty aliens and sprint through these lava-infested corridors. Let me just waltz through this place that's actively killing me every second I spend in it. But hey, like 15 to 20 minutes later, I somehow managed to get through all that.
Samus, activate the Varia feature on your suit to protect yourself from heat damage.
Alright, look, I know this series has some really dumb ways of taking away Samus's abilities early on so the player has something to collect, and there's still a sense of progression, except for Fusion. That game actually handled that really well. But that sacrifice in logic was made for a better gameplay experience because discovering and earning a more powerful state of being is half the appeal of these games, and oh boy, let me tell ya, nothing diminishes that feeling more than already having access to Samus's entire arsenal but not getting to use it until this Nimrod says so. The player has no agency over the use of their their tools and abilities. It's all walled off from you until the game decides it's ready for you to use it, and now instead of feeling excitement or relief when you obtain new upgrades, it really just feels annoying because there's no reason I shouldn't have been able to use this beforehand. And I don't think the safety of the rest of the crew is a very good excuse when one, half the missions that Samus has been sent on also included the goal of locating Galactic Federation soldiers, so she already knows how to work around them, but two, they're just killing each other off anyway. Yeah, so after meeting up with Team Redshirt over here, the game discovers a research center that reveals that the Galactic Federation was using the bottle ship to not only raise and preserve a lot of alien species that once lived on planet Zebes, but were also experimenting on ways to create bioweapons.
In these facilities, life forms from each planet have been raised and researched as possible bioweapons.
Adam, was the Galactic Federation experimenting with bioweapons?
What are you, stupid?
The aliens roaming this facility could probably be excused as just trying to not let these species go extinct, with these habitats around the place meant to give them a sustainable recreation of the environment they once lived in, with some being recognizable enemies from Super Metroid and others being a little more original, like this little Furby-looking thing that starts stalking Samus. She doesn't really pay much mind until it somehow evolves into this creature and starts causing more issues all around the bottle ship. But we also start to see creatures like these Beastians outfitted with cybernetic enhancements that the Federation was presumably creating to use as bioweapons. This entire operation was being led by a woman named Madeline Bergman, so the mission now turns into finding and destroying this gross dude and seeing if Madeline is still alive and what information can be gathered from her. It actually does seem like some progress is being made here after Samus finds this girl who claims to be Madeline Bergman, but it's not. No, she's actually... She's someone else. And if you're thinking it's a clone of Samus or something, well, that was my first thought too, but it's not. It's somehow even dumber than that. Well, anyway, she reveals that, yeah, the Galactic Federation was using this facility to create bioweapons. Great, I already knew that. But she also lets us know that she saw one of the members of Adam's crew kill one of his own comrades, and this dude even tries to kill Samus before getting away. So what you're saying is, there's an imposter among us. So Samus decides to refer to this traitor as the Deleter, which... alright. And soon Adam chimes in to say that it's time to go kill that evolving creature from before. Neither of them seems to want to discuss this whole traitorous murderer though, and I cannot fathom why this discussion doesn't come up. Like, the only thing that actually makes sense to bring up, and it's the one thing no one has anything to say about. Samus does make it to the pyrosphere, where it looks like the creature has changed form yet again, and after some back and forth with Anthony in this really dark room and this mysterious shadow swooping around them, we finally see what's been following Samus around the entire game and causing half our problems. At this point, I'm ready for a cool boss fight with my favorite enemy in the game, but instead we need Samus to be distraught and caught up in disbelief for a moment. And I mean, yeah, I can see her going through that, but for this long? Like, she's stuck staring at this creature for a while, and then... Excuse me? Really? This is how you're handling this situation? You know what? People always bring up how much they hate the way Samus acts in this scene, and yeah, me too. It doesn't fall in line with what we know about this character at all. She already knows that there's a lot of cloning and bioweapon shenanigans going on here, but she's also fought and beaten this thing several times at this point, even if the Prime games aren't a factor. So I don't even find this reaction realistic. But I'm also confused by Ridley here. Like, what are you doing, dude? Just gonna stand there and yell at her all day, or are you actually gonna do something? Yeah, okay, there you go. That's what I thought.
Hey, Pop! Don't you know how to treat a lady? Man, you got no stop!
Anthony, you are a light of hope in this dark void, and the only thing keeping me going right now. This is the scene people hate. Whenever people bring up Metroid Other M and how much it sucks, this is the moment that comes to mind, because the image of one of the coolest characters in the game industry is sabotaged so fast here, and it's downright insulting to see her characterized this way. I read in an article that a Nintendo representative said that people missed the point of this scene and that it wasn't about a moment of weakness for Samus, and rather one about strength. Oh yeah? You want to elaborate on that one, dude? Want to explain the strength side of Samus freezing and leaving herself in such a vulnerable position that it almost gets her killed and manages to result in the presumed murder of her best friend? Sorry. Wow, that actually took a lot out of my lungs. I don't even know if there's much more to say here. I mean, so many people have already discussed why this scene is just the worst, but we still have other things to get to, so let's just speed this up a little bit, because I don't know how much more I have left in me. After the Ridley battle, the big dude escapes because of course he does, but we also lose contact with Adam. This is where things start to get a bit better though. We get to use items when they become useful, there's no more constant interruptions, and even Samus starts to feel a little more likable after this.
Any objections, Adam?
Come on, where was this side of Samus the entire game? We eventually stumble into not Madeline again, who reveals that on top of everything else, the Federation also used cells recovered from Samus's armor to start a Metroid propagation program, and are you seeing it? Are you starting to see the similarities? The facility, created as an artificial habitat for creatures that lived on a planet that Samus had a previous mission on, the development of bioweapons that the organization is trying to cover up, being railroaded around the place under the orders of Adam, and now a secret lab on the ship containing Metroids? This game is just Metroid Fusion again, but bad. It also doesn't help that Other M takes place before Fusion, which makes all the revelations in that game seem like they should have been a lot more obvious now that we know that it's all happened before this, but yeah, this game just takes everything from Fusion and makes it worse. I mean, look, they even brought Nightmare back in, and it is just as disturbing as before. I wish the Metroid lab section was at least as cool in this game, but we never even get to go inside. Samus is attacked by Adam and almost killed by this baby Metroid that was just vibing right outside the lab, and then that gets killed by Adam, who reveals that the only way to get rid of the lab is to destroy it from the inside so it'll launch itself away from the bottle ship and blow itself up in the cold vacuum of space. Sound familiar? This is that heroic sacrifice Adam made. He incapacitated Samus so he could destroy the lab, giving up his life to save the galaxy, and honestly, I don't even think that this scene is all that bad, but it sure would have meant a lot more if I liked him, but this is the only scene of the game that he isn't a complete jerk. Well, just about everyone is dead now. Even this guy, who, James, who turned out to be the deleter, so yeah, I guess that whole plot thread is done now, but we eventually make it to the research area where we find the real Madeline, who thinks that we came to kill her, so she sicks a Queen Metroid on us because yeah, sure, I guess we're doing that again. After killing the Queen, we chat with Madeline, who tells us that the other girl that we spoke with before was actually an artificial life form controlled by an AI based on Mother Brain. Yes, the Galactic Federation wanted to find a way to control the monsters they created, including the Metroids, so they created a Mother Brain clone, but decided it was a bad idea. Yeah, it probably was. And when they tried to get rid of her, she of course used the creatures that the Federation created to kill everyone on the facility, and now is trying to fly the ship to the Galactic Federation headquarters to get revenge, and somewhere in there's this whole thing about Madeline acting like a mother to MB, cause no, really guys, this game has a theme, trust me. Other M, mother, get it? Guys, do you get it? MB shows up, someone puts the brakes on the ship to stop it from reaching its destination, the Federation also shows up, MB gets pissed and summons a climactic set piece, you aim at her and the game is over. Madeline takes the shot to freeze MB, who's gunned down by the Federation. Anthony apparently survived, so at least there's one good thing that came out of all of this. And everyone leaves. You know what, actually real quick, props to this one moment right here. There's this grouchy old Federation general who commends Samus on her work, but as soon as she tries to speak with Madeline again, he shoots her down with the outsider thing again, and yeah, I can totally see how an organization like this would be super open and welcoming to her when they can benefit from her work, but want nothing to do with her otherwise. It's one of the few ways that they expand the universe in this game that I actually think adds a little depth. I guess that's technically not everything though, because once the credits are done rolling, you return to the bottle ship before the Federation destroys it so you can collect Adam's helmet that was left behind, and it's kind of the best part of the game. You can explore and clean up any of the collectibles you didn't grab before with no interruptions. There's a secret boss fight with Fantoon, and it's almost starting to feel like a real Metroid game. Until you find the helmet, a self-destruction sequence starts, and you run back to your ship as Samus in her Zero suit. Why is she in her Zero suit for this section? why indeed. I really wasn't trying to make this video so long, but there's so much to discuss. There are so many problems with this mess of a game, and that's still me probably overlooking a couple of things, but it's really no wonder as to why people often refer to this as the worst thing that's ever happened to the series, and yeah, it did kind of kill the franchise for a little while there. The overhauled gameplay structure that stripped away rewarding progression, the ham-fisted story that was just a worse version of the game that it wishes it could be, and the portrayal of Samus obviously didn't resonate with players when the game came out. And up till then, Metroid was probably enjoying the height of its popularity. The Prime games really managed to breathe new life into the Metroid franchise, and Other M just took it all away in one fell swoop. Are there redeeming qualities to this game? Yeah, I mean, sure, there are, and I tried to point them out when they came up, but those that do exist are just drowning in terrible choices and awful structure. At the end of the day, unless you really just want to laugh at it or be baffled for some reason, there's really no reason to pick up Metroid Other M. I am not the only person that's made a video about Other M, far from it, and there's plenty of other people on this site that have done it way better than me, but this was my takeaway from it, and I hope you at least enjoyed watching me suffer. Of course, there are plenty of other great things about this franchise to talk about. I mean, the Metroid Prime games alone, but they deserve their own Metroid Month, so I will give them that next October and hope to see you there when I tackle them. But for now, I need a little break, okay? I think I'm gonna take like a week off of YouTube and recharge a little bit, but I will be back, and I'll be back soon, I promise. So everyone, thank you so much for making my first Metroid Month something that's really special to me. I will be back to make more soon, but until then, you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Discord, whichever you prefer, links in the description, and of course, as always, spread the word, tell your friends, and until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. See you next mission. Well, hello, welcome to the end of the video. Really glad this video is done. Not to say I didn't have fun making it though. This is probably exactly the video I needed to cap off Metroid Month and probably the last couple of months of making videos. I've been going at it like a video a week since, I can't remember, I want to say it was like August, and it's been a lot of work, but it has felt really rewarding, and Metroid Month was a ton of fun. I can't wait to do it again next year, but I am gonna try to plan it out a little bit better. As for now, I am gonna be taking it a little bit easy for at least a week. I'm not gonna be working on any YouTube stuff. I'm gonna take a break. I'm just gonna give myself a week's vacation from YouTube work. I'm not gonna let myself work on any videos until that's over. I am excited though because the PlayStation 5 is coming out very soon. That should just be in like a little less than 2 weeks when this video goes up. And I am planning on getting that day one and hopefully doing some stuff about that when it comes out. And yeah, as for that, I'm really not sure what I'm doing after this. I didn't really plot things out after Metroid Month. This was just kind of like my end game for the year. But don't worry, I will be back very shortly with some new content. And of course, it is always for the lovely viewers like you, as well as my Patreon supporters. So I want to go ahead and give a very special shout out to Patricia Marcoux, Christine Larkin, Cirrus the Skeptic, Earl Velko, and Wonton Photo, my current top tier patrons. Thank you guys so much for supporting me the way that you do. You make this possible, and you make it worth it. With all of that said, thank you so much for watching. I have been Wayne. Metroid Month was a total blast, and yes, Adam, I have plenty of objections. Alright, peace.